Okay, so without further ado, we're not going to waste any time on this. The whole point of this video is to go into a little bit more detail as to why U-Haul did not work for me. I have moved both across country from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to from the basically North Midwest down to Georgia, which is the deep South, and it didn't work for me then. And I've also moved from one part of Metro Atlanta to the other part of Metro to actually the city of Atlanta, and it didn't work for me then either. So overall, would I recommend U-Haul? No. You can do whatever you want to do, but and try your luck. But I'm telling you right now, before we even get into the video deep into it, it didn't work for me, and I would not ever recommend U-Haul to anybody, especially people who don't have time to play around.
Let me explain.
When I'm talking about like moving across country, it just didn't make financial sense to me, and I don't move. I don't care what it is. I do not make any moves if it does not make financial sense in moving across country. Even though I had the money to make that move, it would have cost me thousands upon thousands of dollars. Like easily, let's say, off the top of my head, it would have cost me $3,000. Let's just say I had the $3,000. Did I want to spend $3,000 on moving? Absolutely not. And let me tell you why. So damn near all of my stuff in total in my apartment, and my little 2-bedroom apartment cost me about $3,000. So at the end of the day, do I want to spend $3,000 to move $3,000 worth of stuff? Or do I just want to keep that money in my pocket and sell the stuff that I have? And now I might end up with, maybe not another 3,000, but I might get 1,500 for all of the stuff that I had, or at least $1,000 for all of the stuff that I had, and I decided to sell. And then I can get to, where I'm going and make the decision to either buy the stuff all over again or replace it with something that's just as good, maybe even a little cheaper. I don't know. It just didn't make financial sense. That's the thing. There are hidden fees. There are hidden fees that, they don't talk about, when you're looking and when you're getting the quote. When I got, online and looked at a quote, the quote was totally different from what they were actually going to bill me, or what I found out they were actually going to bill me once I got into the store. After looking at the trucks, I looked at the U-Haul boxes, like the little college, whatever you can fit in the big, like, I don't know, 6x9 box is, basically they said it was a flat rate shipping price. I don't remember if it was or not. But the only thing that I do remember was the reviews when I went to Google, and both when I looked on YouTube and found videos, the reviews were very, very mixed. And so I continued to do some more Google searches and looking for reviews and looking for the details of the reviews. And I ended up finding out that the boxes just aren't sturdy. And I wanted to make sure, that they weren't lying. So I ended up going down to a U-Haul place to look at the boxes on my own. And when I got there, first and foremost, the boxes, like online when they advertised it, they made it seem like you could fit an entire room inside of these boxes. Yeah, you can fit an entire room inside the boxes if you're a professional freaking mover. If you're not, if you're somebody like me, I'm just Joe Schmo off the street. No, you are not going to be able to fit an entire room inside of the boxes. At least not the boxes that I saw that were at my location in Milwaukee. That was not not an entire room. And again, I'm not somebody who has a bunch of stuff piled up in any of my rooms, and it just was not an entire room's worth of space in those boxes. And what I noticed also when I got there was that what people were saying online was definitely true. The boxes just was like pieces of plywood put together. They were not sturdy at all. And from what I understand, based off of what I read, I could be wrong, but based off of what I read, they are not weatherproof, and they are basically like, once you fill the box up and you close it, they suggest that you fill it up as much as you possibly can, because any type of like pockets of space allows things to shift in the move. And if you have anything that's like fragile, you could run the risk of it breaking just because it's moving back and forth during the whole shipping process. And not only that, but the shipping process is basically like them putting this box on an 18-wheeler. The 18-wheeler may or may not be like a covered 18-wheeler. And if it's not, then you run the risk of like, okay, it takes a week for them to, get the box from point A to point B. And throughout that entire week, you literally could be like, your stuff could be caught in the rain. And if it's caught in the rain, guess what? That plywood is not going to keep stuff from actually getting wet, and now you might run the risk of getting a box and all of your stuff in it is damaged because it has water damage. A lot of people got their stuff in some way, shape, fashion, or form. It was damaged in U-Haul from what the reviews say and what some of the YouTube videos said. U-Haul wasn't really actually that. Um, the customer service sucked basically, and they weren't that helpful when it came to trying to replace these people. When it comes to these like college, U-Haul boxes, the other issue that we rent or that I saw online was a lot of people had issues with their boxes going to the wrong place. So, they might have, moved from, let's say New York to Los Angeles, but somehow their box ended up in Texas. And, U-Haul did not try to, rectify the situation as best as they could. And when they actually were able to rectify it, they wanted to charge the person for the extra time that the box was on the road, which, no. Like, I'm going to be pissed off if I get, to Atlanta and find out that my box is in New Orleans. Like, and you want to charge me for it? No. The other thing, or I think it was possibly the last thing that I thought about was, just filling up my car as much as I could and then packing the rest of the stuff inside a U-Haul trailer and hitching it to the back of my truck, because that's going to work, right? Like, duh, foolproof plan. Nah. Nope. And I'm going to tell you why. I get to U-Haul because I love speaking to people in person. I can't stand like doing the whole let's chat online. I don't, I'll do that in the beginning, but once I'm done talking to you, I want to go inside a store and talk to a person that I can see and look in my face so I know you're not lying. I want to see that person. So I went inside of U-Haul and I'm trying to get a trailer to hook on the back of my SUV, and then I realized, oh shit, I don't have a hitch. Oh, that's okay. We'll put a hitch on there. The only bad thing was that I was going to have to push back my moving date a couple of days, which meant that I was going to have to stay with another person after I moved out of my apartment. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I really don't want to do that. However, in the end, if I could save the stuff that I actually want to save and keep my beds and whatnot, it'll be worth it. And so they're just ever so happy to sign me up, to hitch, put a hitch on the back of my truck or whatever and set up that appointment. And they're telling me it's going to cost XYZ hundreds of dollars to do. And so I'm like, okay, all right. So they made an appointment for a specific day, but never gave me a specific time. And I'm like, how? That's the red flag number one. How am I supposed to, like, do I know what time to come up there? Oh, we'll call you closer to that day and give you a definite time. Like, okay, cool beans. And so I'm looking because I'm skeptical. I don't know why. I'm just skeptical. And I'm looking online and I'm seeing reviews about the trailers, on the back of the trucks or on the back of your cars. And I'm thinking, I have an SUV, so I shouldn't have any issues. Well, I called up and I asked them several times, and they, said, you have an SUV. Your SUV should be fine. Nothing's wrong. I went back up there a second time and had somebody come out and look at my SUV. Oh no, I know this SUV. This SUV will be fine. Just don't cancel your appointment. And so I went just to be sure, because it's just me and two kids that'll be driving in the middle of nowhere from the Midwest. And trust me, half of that ride is in the middle of nowhere. And I just did not want anything to happen while I was on the road and be stuck in the middle of nowhere. And so I just said, you know what? I feel like they're pulling my chain. I feel like they're, for whatever reason, just was more interested in making sure that they got that money. And so I ended up calling, the dealership. I can't trust nobody else. I can trust my dealership. I've been taking my car there to get maintenance for years. Let me go ahead and ask them. Well, basically what he said was, yeah, sure, lady, you can do that if you want your car to go out on you. Like, sure, you can do it. But just know that, you driving your truck across the country with some shit hooked on the back of it, your truck may last you a year after that. You're going to be having some serious engine issues afterwards. So you can risk it, and at best, if it does work, that's because, you drove 65 miles or less the entire ride, but the second that you have to go up a hill, you're going to have to, basically crank that baby into overdrive, and it's really going to put a strain on your engine. So if you're asking my professional opinion, would I do it? Hell no. But if that's really what you want to do, be my guest. And I was just like, thank you for being honest with me, because I feel like these people were not being honest. And I asked them several times, hey, can I do this? And they told me, yeah, sure, you can put a hitch on the back of this truck. Yeah, sure, the hitch, this truck was made, this SUV was made for that. Knowing good and damn well it wasn't. And so, yeah, thank you for the advice. Like, I I was so like done. Like, why couldn't y'all have just like told me the truth? Or maybe if you didn't know, why couldn't you have just said, you know what, ma'am, I ain't even gonna hold you. I don't know if it's possible to put anything on the back of this truck or not. Like, but what I would suggest you do is call your dealer or a mechanic and they can, help you further. Just tell me the truth. They wasn't trying to do that because they wasn't trying to lose any money. Their goal, once you get into U-Haul, is to get you to buy something, get you to rent something. It don't matter what it is. That's their goal, and they really don't know what the heck they're doing outside of that. And so I'm glad I didn't actually like have a hitch installed on the back of my truck because it wasn't meant for that. Truth be told, I ended up selling everything and putting everything and putting what I did have in the back of my SUV, which was still a lot of stuff, and going up them hills in Kentucky and in Tennessee and in mountains. I did. Like, I caught hell trying to like get my SUV up them hills. And I also caught hell trying to slow down when it was like time to go down them hills. Like, I was able to maintain my composure for most of the ride, but there was one particular like dip down while I was in Tennessee. I almost had a whole panic attack, and I had to like keep from driving us off the fucking edge of the mountain, like, because I couldn't slow down and I wasn't going that fast. So I can't imagine having like a rig hooked up, a trailer hooked up to the back of my truck and going down the hill. I would not have been able to stop. And my brakes were good. My entire car was checked out. Everything was good. But I had a hard time. And I feel like it was because I had so much stuff packed up in the trunk of my car. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't go with the trailer either. The next one, this is getting long, but the young lady, when I was there, decided, or the very last time that I went up to U-Haul in Milwaukee, she offered me, well, if you're not going to get the trailer, or if you're not sure whether you're going to get the trailer or not, what I suggest you do is put your stuff in storage. Don't sell it. Put it in storage. I'll go ahead and sign you up for a storage unit now. And if you don't use it, you don't have to worry about anything. If you don't use it, you won't be charged for anything. That was a bold-faced ass lie. About a month after I got to Atlanta, I ended up looking up, my bank statements as I always do. And lo and behold, what did I have? A charge from U-Haul for a storage unit that I actually never moved into. I never used. And I had to wait on the phone for hours on hold after calling the local U-Haul. I ended up having to get online and find the corporate U-Haul, which I ended up waiting on the phone with them forever before somebody picked up. And then I had to have a long conversation, a long, unnecessary, drawn out conversation with that person from corporate for them to actually reverse the charges, because I basically said, you know what? If you look at any of the security cameras in that storage unit, you will never see my body crossing that camera going to any storage unit. I was never there. I money back. And that's how that had to go. Locally, let's just make this real quick and short. They signed, I'm thinking I didn't have a lot of luck, moving my stuff across country with U-Haul. So maybe things will be different if I'm moving locally across, the city. And this is a whole different city. So maybe things, were one way in Milwaukee, but they'll be a whole lot better since we're down south and we're in Atlanta. People are friendly. People know what they're doing. No, it was no different. I went and I signed up to get a small box truck to move, my five big pieces of furniture. And, everything was going good. I signed up, I set my reservation up and was supposed to come the next day to pick it up. And they gave me a location. They called me back and was like, oh, well, we don't have that box truck at this location, but we have it at another location right down the street. Would that work for you? And I'm like, yes, great. It'll work for me. Everything is working out wonderfully. We get there the next morning, me and my son's father, he was helping me move. And we get there the next morning and the location is closed. How am I supposed to pick up a truck and the location is closed? The front door, and there's a sign on the door. It's basically like, yeah, it's self-serve, and you have to basically get the combination. The keys are in this lockbox here, and if you made a reservation, they should have sent you a code to open the lockbox to get your key. We made a reservation. Somebody called us, confirmed our reservation, changed the location, never told me about a lockbox, never gave me a combination. And here we are sitting outside a location ready to move all of our stuff. Time is winding down. I have to get out of this apartment. And there was absolutely no way for me to get the keys to access the truck that we had reserved. Didn't send me the lockbox combination, but they did send me an invoice for like $290 something. And I'm like, well, damn, what happened to the $19 a day? And I guess it was, in the fine, very, very fine small print that it was $19, I guess, plus mileage or depending on by the mile. And I'm like, well, if you're charging me by the mile, then that's not $19 a day. But whatever. How are you charging me anything when I haven't even gotten the damn truck yet? So I ended up having to cancel the reservation after, I called or I tried to call the number that was on the door at the bottom of the sign and nobody picked up. I ended up having to cancel my reservation and go with a different box truck from none other than Home Depot, which is another story, but we'll get there. It was a Home Depot truck, but we didn't actually rent it through Home Depot. But, I'll discuss that later if you want me to. But yeah, this is the reason why. This is the reason why it was just a lot of runaround. It was a lot of like asking questions to employees, and they would either act like they knew the answer and didn't, or they would just flat out not know. And it was just, if you have like if you're working under a time constraint and you're working on a budget, U-Haul ain't the one. Like, maybe you'll have luck wherever you are, but so far I have not had enough luck at all to recommend U-Haul for anybody. It's not for me. Hopefully it'll work out for you if you want to risk it, but I'll never in my life, ever in my life, rent from U-Haul at all. Hopefully I won't ever have to have storage. If I do, it won't be through U-Haul. That was it. That's all I got. Have a good one.